Thank you everyone for joining. I think we're ready to get started. I want to stop on the top of the hour to be mindful of your time. I'm Emmanuel, and what I propose to do today is to give you some tips and to share some numbers on how to use reference checking to create a steady flow of sales opportunities. The session should take about, sweet and short, it should take about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. I'll try to be to the point, and then we'll have some time for Q&A, but it's going to be a short session. What I'm going to do, I'll try to keep an eye on the chat room. So don't hesitate to stop me at any time. If you have any questions, I'll try to do my best to keep an eye on it. All right, so to get started, first thing, just a few words about myself. I'm the founder and CEO of Terrific, which is a solution for reference checking and fraud detections. And as you might have already noticed, I have a small accent. That's because actually I was born in Paris, but I've been in the US for more than 20 years. I went to school in Philadelphia and I lived in Houston, and now I'm in Austin. Nobody believes me when I say I'm from Texas, but actually I've been in the US for more than 20 years. And I actually also represented the country, Team USA. I was part of the team, at the 2011 World Championship for the triathlon events. So I'm a little bit more American than what my accent can tell. But most importantly, with Terrific, we've conducted more than 1 million reference checks for staffing, specifically for staffing firms. And reference checking, it's a reference is a gift to a candidate. And it's a gift also to you, to the staffing firms. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. So there are many benefits, that comes with checking references that you can see on the screen. The most two important that are probably that are drive income is that this is a fantastic way, to sell, to market your candidates, to make them stand out as strong candidates, and then to increase your submit to hire. And it's also a fantastic way to make new connections and more precisely to acquire new customers, which is the purpose of this talk. The reason why reference checking is such a powerful way to acquire new customers is that it overcomes 4 big challenges. These are 4 big challenges that you will always encounter, when you try to win new customers, and which are: first, you want to get, valid leads, quality leads. And the second challenge is once you get someone you want to speak with or you want to engage, you need to somehow to connect. So whether it's be on the phone or on LinkedIn or via email, there should be like a connections. People accept your connection request on LinkedIn, or they pick up your phone, or they pick up their phone to get to speak with you on the phone. And the third challenge is that once you've established that connections, you want people to open up a bit and to be open, to share a little bit about themselves and then to listen to what you have to offer. And finally, when you get to that stage where you're having that conversation with the client, with the prospect clients, you want to win them over the competitions to show them that the quality of your service and that giving them a reason to work specifically with you. So something that is very powerful about reference checking is that it overcomes all these challenges. Reference checks, are very friendly sales. That's the friendliest sales calls you can make. People are going to pick up the phone, because they want to help someone they used to work with. And there's this, they're helping someone. So these are very friendly sales calls. It gives you the opportunity to not only to get people on the phone, but also then to ask questions as part of the reference check. But it's a discovery call in disguise, where you can learn about, not only about the candidate, but also about the team, about the company, and about your prospect. And then it's a fantastic way to showcase the quality of your service, before starting working with a client. Basically you're showing them live that you have like a very stringent due diligence process, that all your candidates go through when you present them to your clients. And these are, not words, it's like actions. You're actually making these phone calls, to showcase the quality of your service. Very powerful. So, but reference checking, and it works extremely well. So we've computed we've been doing for many years, and we've measured results. And what we see is that when you focus on quality, on specific leads, quality leads, you can expect to convert, 20, 30% of your phone calls, reference check calls, into a sales meeting. It's very effective. So, as compared, to 2 or 3% with cold calling. So it's very high conversion. It does come with a few challenges on its own. So typically what we see is that, a lot of staffing firms, they always put like speed as top priority. So we want to move fast. Don't want anything to slow down the process. Another challenge that we see is that sometimes some staffing firms, they use it's more like we do it upon client request, and it becomes like a more sporadic, low volume process. And the numbers still matter. So you want to have like a pipeline, to generate leads that ultimately will convert into these opportunities. The size of the pipeline matters. Some recruiters sometimes are a little bit hesitant, not hesitant, but they don't want to put too much burdens on the candidates. So sometimes they're a little bit reluctant to ask for more, a little bit of fear of asking the candidates, to provide more informations. And then another challenge that sometimes, people, they completely forego, to pivot into a sales call. So obviously that's important to win over the client. And then, time, of course, and resources can be limitations. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to share with you 6 tips, 6 actionable tips for you to get, the best results. So the tip number 1 is, when do you ask for references? And what we've seen over and over is that most staffing firms, they would typically do the reference checks, at the offer stage, if they do it at all. So if you're already checking references at earlier stage, you're already a heads up, you're already ahead of the competitions, because most staffing firms will actually ask at the offer stage after a decision is already been made, which is, kind of doesn't help as much as marketing your candidates. The decision has already been made. And so of course, when you ask at the offer stage, all candidates, 99%, are going to respond immediately. If they want the job, they're going to respond. So one of the key components, to ultimately to get candidates to provide references is always going to be more than technology. It's going to be their motivations. So of course, if you ask someone and there's an offer on the table, people are going to respond. And if you ask a little bit earlier, some candidates might be a little bit hesitant, reluctant to provide references at an earlier stage. But know that we've computed some statistics, and what we see is that, at the interview stage, you still have like 60-80% of candidates who respond. So maybe not all of them, not 100% of them, but 60-80%, which is still like a very large amount. And when we have clients who ask even earlier, right to represent at the submission stage, so the response rate is going to be lower, but your pipeline is getting so much bigger. You're asking so many more candidates. So our recommendations is kind of to require systematically at the offer stage, but then, to kind of give the candidates a chance, to provide references earlier, starting from submissions, so that they can use the references, to stand out from the other candidates. So you can ask for references, at submission, you make it optional. Then you can require at the interview stage, and a soft require means like you say it's required, but if you have people who are pushing back, you let go and it's okay, but you make it require at the interview stage, you soft require. And this way you can ask, more, and you can start you ask more candidates to prioritize, and it's going to increase your pipeline. You're going to make so many more connections, because the very first thing is how many candidates provide references, to define the size of your pipeline. So the tip number 2 is that what we found is that there are actually some magic words to use with the candidates. And the magic words are, we already know your references are positive. And that's why we want to put them in front of the eyes of the hiring managers. It helps us get you selected. So we found that this word, we know your references are positive, it kind of changes the mindset. Candidates who feel it, otherwise they might perceive, reference checking as like an obstacle, like to get to the offer. But it's the opposite. It's a door opener. It's like something that helps them, get selected. So when you say we know your references are positive, it really changes the mindset. And if you ask, at a very earlier stage, submission, right to represent, you can add, this option until the interview stage, but highly recommended because it makes you stand out as a strong candidate. So tip number 3, yeah, and that's really works. So again, we're also, technology, we can measure everything. So we've seen that actually, helps when the timely completed references would increase the candidate chances of getting selected, by 40% to get selected for an interview. So very often, reference checking is being perceived as a way to close the deal, to get clients off the fence, which is absolutely true. But it's actually also a very strong door opener, for your candidates to stand out, to get selected for interview. Tip number 3 is, so then as you implement like a systematic reference checking process, you start generating leads, quality leads, but still, focus on quality. You don't need to treat all the references the same. They're not going to yield like the same. They're not always going to be a senior executive at top companies. So it's 80-20% rules. Focus on your top connections. For the bulk of the volume, you can spend less time, or you can use technology. You keep that high touch, with like your top prospects. For if you're obviously limited in time and resources. So on tip number 4 is that it's important to put the leads into the right hands. And what we've seen are like 3 different processes that you can think of. So the first one is, full desk recruiters will want the leads to come back to them. So that's the way it works. But for people who have if you have a split desk, dedicated recruiters and dedicated salespeople, it's really important to put the leads into the hands of your sales manager. And so here, there's like some coordination that needs to take place. What we've seen that, dedicated recruiters, they don't necessarily have the mindset to pivot into a sales call, while it's going to be so much easier for your sales managers. What you want, and remember, these are like very friendly phone calls. So this is actually a tremendous opportunity to get like even like younger folks, to get used to getting on the phone, contacting prospect, getting to speak with clients. These are friendly phone calls. These are, if you put like even like a younger sales managers to the task, hunters are going to do very well. They're going to do very well. Another component that is important is that if you have like a large network, across the nations, and you work with sales territories, it's very important, to pass on the leads to the office that can make the most out of it. And we have clients, with a nationwide coverage. 60% of the leads that they receive actually come from a different office, which is huge. It means that basically, if you work with sales territory, if it matters, you can multiply by 2 or 3, the number of leads that you can use for your office. The tip number 5 is to have like a script. And of course, people are going to, through their conversation with the client, they're going to personalize, they can have their own personal touch. But having a script prepared in advance makes it so much easier and professional. So, you can start with, hey, I'm speaking with Emma. You've been listed as a reference for John. We're considering John for hire. I'm calling to see if this is a good time to do a quick reference check. Okay, fantastic. My name is Emmanuel. I'm with ABC Staffing, and so on. So prepare a script, for your team. It makes it so much easier. It's very professional, and have like a few pivots, for them. It can be as easy as, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't to ask, but do you currently have any job opening? Even better, if you can reinforce the quality of your service. You can say things like, based on, thank you so much for all the feedback you gave me on Jean, based on the feedback you gave us, based on what you said, we're going to present it to our clients, and I'm sure they're going to be very happy to have him. Thank you so much. So reinforce that you're doing your due diligence, and all your candidates are being screened, before being presented to your clients. So tip number 6 is very important. It's like, keep in mind, be mindful of people's time. And so what it means is that, the reference check part, it should take like max 15-20 minutes, no more. So you're going to be in situations sometimes where you get to speak with someone and they want to help, and they start sharing a lot of information, and everything is going great, and you're building the relationship, and that's fantastic. But keep in mind that people at some point, they are going to have to get back to what they were doing. 30 minutes, I bet, that they're going to cut it short at some point. You don't want to be in a situation where they're going to say, You're talking with them, everything's going great, and they're going to say, okay, hope this was helpful. I've got a meeting, I need to jump off. And now you no longer have time for your pivot. So keep some space for your pivot. Keep the reference checking part like max 20 minutes and then cut it short, which means that you don't have to go through all the questions. If after 20 minutes, cut it short, because ultimately you want to pop up the questions. You want to have some time, if they're interested, to have like at least 5 minutes, a short discussions, but what you provide, what you offer, and then the next step. If you take all the time you use it, for the reference check part, you might be in a situation where you have no more. So be mindful of people. So with that, you might still encounter like some challenges with time and resources, and know that this is the reason why you have technology. So everything I've described here, the process of, asking the candidates earlier in the process, following up with them, and channeling the leads to your sales team, and the script and the pivots, every single thing, it's what we do. That's our technology. It's high touch, we will contact electronically the leads that you do not call, but we actually send you, this is a tool, to generate leads and for you to convert them using the reference check as a way to get them on the very effective. And know that in addition to this service, we also have a very strong fraud detection component. If you're IT staffing, the market is saturated with fake candidates, we now have a solution for that. And so that's it. Yeah, I promised that it was going to be short and sweet. Hope this is helpful. I'm keeping, if you have any questions, don't hesitate you can text them on the chat box. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Any question? Thank you. So the fraud detections, it's what we've built is a candidate X-ray. It's kind of, the equivalent of when you go to the airport and you go through TSA, and that's what we build. We're building like it's an X-ray of the candidates, a digital footprint, and it's very effective at spotting candidates who fake their identity, and then with the reference check, we also identify candidates who fake their references. So it's a good way, to find, fake candidates, to get some red flags for people who might do a bait and switch. Or it's actually a tool, a way, to detect moonlighters, job farmers, people who will take like multiple jobs or subcontract to someone else. So yeah, we know that in IT staffing, fake candidates is a big issue, and so we've built some solutions. I'll share the link with you, and if you want, I can show you more about it. Let me type the link. Put the link in the chat room. Okay, so detections, I was asked. Any other question? Do you see pushback when showing list to someone from some list? Okay, so yeah, we do not, so I don't know if that's a question. Pushback when sharing list to someone from someone else. So I'm not completely sure I am. So first thing, if you're asking about our technology, we would never share the own leads with other agencies, obviously. This is, if the question is, if do you get any pushback from the candidates, as I said, well, if it's all a matter of the motivation of the candidate, you ask them at the offer stage, people are going to respond. You ask them earlier, you change the mindset and you show them that it's actually helping them. Some people are still going to be a little bit hesitant, but yeah, the majority are going to. We've seen, people who said no, and then they said, "Oh, okay, they get it." So yeah, I guess that's a question. Can you discuss how this relates to complaints? Yes. So I have a question about compliance with the law. So know that in the US, reference checking is governed by the Fair Credit Reporting Act that has actually mostly like two components. When you collect references from the candidates, they're like you need to do proper disclosure, ask for authorization, and tell them their rights. And then at the time when you make a decision, if you were to make an adverse decision against a candidate, the law tells you that you have to make you send an adverse notification. So all that part is actually streamlined with a tool or reference checking tool. Do you have statistics on what percentage of reference checks result in a sale? Yes. So what we typically see is that these are bulk numbers, but what we typically expect is that, from all the references you collect, your top quality prospects that can generate leads, sales, will be like the top 10 to 20% of all the references. And obviously it depends, based on a little bit on, I'm talking about trying to connect with senior executive, and sometimes there's like a geographical component to it. But as a bulk number, so it would be like 10 to 20% of your, who you want to speak with. And when you focus on these top quality leads and you make this phone call and use a reference check, get them on the phones, showcase your service, the conversion is very high. It's like 20, 30%. You can expect to make 3 to 5 phone calls to get to sales meetings, to move up to the next stage. Thank you so much, Anastasia. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm keeping an eye to see if there's any. Thank you, Jan. Any more questions? So I honestly wanted to make it short and sweet, but we have plenty of time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the slides again, just to share with you again what I was sharing today. So and I keep an eye on for more questions. So we have more time. Yeah. So yeah, actually what I'm going to do, since we have more time, I'm going to show you quickly. I'll run through the deck, and see if you have more questions on that specific topic. And I'll take an advantage to take the opportunity to show you live or fraud detections tool maybe. So give me just run through the slide right now, and then I'll switch to the app and I'll show you what we can do. Okay. So remember, I think this has been very effective. We've seen many times, with candidates sometimes a little bit hesitant, and just using this word kind of just change the mindset, and it's been a positive, makes a positive difference. Focus on quality. If you have the lead, have a pivot, and be mindful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.